Okay, so tonight it's February 15th already, and I'm just going to work on something here. Give me a second. There we go. Okay, so it's February 15th, second Zoom meeting of the new year, and John and myself and Murray are here. You can see our emails there if you ever want to get in touch with us on any matter. We're happy to chat with you. So tonight what we're going to do is we're going to start off with our normal agenda items, and that's a welcome, which we're doing right now, and just open it up for any questions or comments. So last time we had a really good session last time, and one of the things that we talked about was sharpening, and I know a number of people went away and did some thinking about how they sharpen their gouges and their knives. And so any learnings from that, or anything that you've tried, or any questions you have on anything we talked about last time, would be a good time to raise it up during this portion of the agenda. We're also going to talk about three other of our regular agenda items. Upcoming shows, just remind you what's happening from an upcoming show standpoint. Talk about all about us, and so this was just an opportunity for people to reintroduce themselves to the group and talk to us a little bit about their carving career and how they started and where they're going with that. And then we'll talk about the third item, what's on the bench. And a number of people have sent in a number of really great carvings to show us what they're currently working on or what they've recently completed. The third item we're going to talk about is the March challenge. So John Paul and I sat down a little while ago and said, why don't we do a challenge for St. Patrick's Day? And so we'll talk a little bit about that and how we'll organize that. We'll pick up again on the whole notion of sharpening knives and deal with wood grain. Just take a little bit of time talking about wood grain, because as you know, as you've been carving, you can have a super sharp knife, but if you're not really thinking about the direction of the wood grain, you can still have a very poor cut on that particular piece of wood. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how wood grain plays into that. John's done a lot of work in terms of coming up with a little tutorial for us in a kind of a new way of carving eyes for John, a little bit of different approach. And so he sent in a number of slides, and we'll take a look at those as well. And then at the end, if anybody has any tips they want to share, or tricks or techniques for the group, we'll take a little time to do that. So we have pretty aggressive agenda here. We'll play it by ear, and if we have to take an agenda item out, we'll do that. But let's just open it up for a conversation. First of all, is there anything anybody wants to raise as a question or a comment from our last session?
Just as soon as you talked about the sharpening, I had disaster happen with one knife, a big nick, and also a chisel. And I really had to go the route of taking a long time to get it back to what it should be. Mm-hmm. It was an interesting challenge, and I was able to use some of those tips and hints really well.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, when we get talking about that again on the agenda item, I know that Elliot Dayton, I don't know if he's on tonight, but he actually sent me an interesting note that a totally different way of managing your knife is to do a very rough edge on it. So like with 80 grit, real rough edge. And some people swear by that. That intuitively doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It makes more sense to kind of go at it as a gradual basis, getting finer and finer. But Elliot was saying there is a method of doing it a different way. And if Elliot joins us tonight, he can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm on, Mark. I saw this on the deep hollow knives on the International Association of Caricature Carving. The guy that makes those knives, he was on, and he said they use 3 belts, and they start off a coarse grind 80 grit, then they go to 160, then they end up with 600,
yeah,
and from there they go straight to the strop, and they put the gold or the green compound on their knives, and that's all they do. Now, I've got two of their knives, and you can see the grind or the scratch marks in the blades, but the edge itself is like tack sharp. I mean, it's scary
Yeah, well,
how sharp that
that's an
edge
interesting
is.
point of view, right? So that might be something people want to try too. I've always prescribed to very high grit as your last grit, like 4,000 grit
Yeah.
before going to the polishing compound. But maybe leave it with people if they want to. I wouldn't try it on your best knife. If you want to experiment on a friend's knife or something like that, you might you might give that a try. It might and give us some feedback how that works. That's something I've never tried before. Thanks
Yeah,
for the
I
question.
haven't myself, but
Yeah. Any other
Mark,
questions or comments?
can I borrow a knife off you, by the way?
Yeah, I'm gonna watch my knives near you, Fred.
How to lose friends.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I do have a question. Has anyone have used a microscope? This little cheap USB microscope to check the edges while they're sharpening? Because I've seen it on YouTube. Some people do, and I have one of these little cheap USB, and I did not have any success in looking at the edges, the reflection, the lighting, and all that.
Mhm.
I need to spend more time to get it to work. But does anyone use that?
I've never.
No. Yeah, that'd be really interesting to see, though. It'd be neat if you could, Jacques, next time you do that, if you can get a good image, take a picture of it or something and show us what it looks like.
Okay, if I have any success, I'll let you know.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
One of the things that I use quite often is a small eye magnifying glass. I think it's used for stamp collectors. It's folded up into a little box, and then you swing the magnifier over top of it. It lays on the table, and you can see very closely things. So you're putting this up to your eye, you can see the edge of where the nick is, and you can see what you have to do further. So it's a handy thing to have. You can get them in. I don't know where I got these from. They probably been old stock from somebody.
Okay, any other comments or questions before we get into it? Okay, thank you for those. Oh boy. Hold on here. That didn't work at all. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look at upcoming shows. And Murray, would you like to talk a little bit about this slide? It's just one slide, just reminding people about the Belleville show.
Yeah, this is the first show of our year, April 13th, and at the Quinte Sport and Wellness Center. It's a beautiful facility. They require us to be there by set up before 9:30, and that will be a real help. So it's you get there at 7:30, you'll be open up. So it's a great show. Looking forward to it, and there'll be information sent out, I think, to anyone interested. They've got some pamphlets and that we can pass along.
Mm-hmm. And we're gonna, and Murray, you've been kind enough to arrange not only an OWCA table, but a True North Caricature Carvers table. So we have a few. It's very close to Kingston, so we have a few Kingston folk that are going to join us there. But if anybody else wants to join us at that table, there's plenty of room. We'll have a lot of fun with it. We did mention.
If I could interrupt for one moment.
Go for it.
This is Ken Naughton. We need some judges for the general section of the Quinte wood carving competition and show. If you could get a hold of me or someone in the group, I'd appreciate it.
You got my reply, didn't you, Ken?
No.
Oh.
That's why I'm saying.
Oh, okay. No, I'd love to help you out with that. I had replied to the email, but you obviously didn't get it.
No.
Okay.
I've been looking for it.
Okay, I'd love to help you.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
We may have Mike Shepard. I'm just confirming that with him for the general, and that would cover us if you come down.
Well, if I have to do with Mike, I don't want to judge. So you make sure you tell him that.
He's pretty good at sharpening.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I don't know if Craig Severn or John LeMay is on the call tonight. Apparently not. So I'm going to get them to talk about this someday that they're on the call because they're both planning to attend this in September. Okay, so we have a few people talking about introduction in terms of all about us. And again, this is just an opportunity for us to get to know each other a little bit better and showcase the really nice artwork people are developing. So Furtis, Fred, and Roy are going to help us with that tonight. And Furtis, you're up first.
Hello, everybody. My name is Firdaus Irani, and just going to talk about my carving and journey and all that stuff. So on the screen, these are these are the first set of carvings I started carving in 2020. Just saw some YouTube videos from Doug Linker and Gene Messer on YouTube, and got interested and started looking into how I can from where I can get the wood and what kind of knives can I use. All research on my own. At that time, I didn't know Mark or OWCA, so I was just looking into all that, and I started. So these are all some of my initial carvings, which I kind of watched Doug Linker and started carving, and I bought some books. Mark, can you please go to the next slide? So slowly after that, this is the second, like one of the few other carvings. I kind of gave away some of my initial carvings to some of the family and friends. So the one on the left you can see is, I think I entered him in one of the initial competitions we had with TNCC as well. The second, this pattern I use from one of the books I got from Dave Stetson's, where there's a whole pattern and he goes through how to carve caricature like this guy over here. The guy on the right, I got tips from Mark and John in our meeting, and I carved this guy. His arms, his hands are separate. And the body is carved separate, the head is separate and the hat is separate. So I kind of glued them all up after carving. Mark, can you go to the next slide, please? So these are some of my recent carvings that I recently carved. The guy on the left-hand side is the recent one. I'll talk about him in one of the upcoming slides, but some of these I entered in our recent TNCC carving competition as well. So it's been caricature carving is what I'm really interested in. I'm not a member of any carving club. I live in Milton, Ontario, and I know that there are some carving clubs around, but it's just the commitment, the time that I have to commit to go to these meetings and stuff. So which is kind of hard with my work and stuff. So I just carve when I get time on my own. Watch a lot of YouTube videos. I follow some people like Roger Stegall and some Doug Linker for sure. So whenever they post videos, I go and check them out. I get tips from Mark and John in our meetings, so I kind of use them. Also have a lot of books that I've bought over the years, so kind of go through them and try and learn what I can. So that's how I've been carving so far. I've got lots and lots of still things to learn, but it's been really nice. I enjoy carving, and I wish I had more time to do so. That's all I have, Mark.
Thanks for those. Your carvings are great. I really like the faces that you do for those. You really nailed this whole notion of getting those eye sockets really deep, and it just makes the whole caricature face pop. Really nice carvings.
Good progress.
Thank you.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for those. Fred, do you want to talk a little bit about your carvings?
Yes, hi, everyone. Thanks very much, Mark. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Okay. So I've always had an interest in carving. I think I started carving when I was 16. And I used to carve, believe it or not, airplanes out of hockey sticks. You can imagine that with a jackknife. I didn't know that you actually had carving knives. At one point though, I gave it all up because life got in the way. We got family and moved around a lot. I was in the military. I never took it up again until about 10 years ago. I really, really missed it. It was always one of the things I wanted to get back to. I love to carve. I'm not necessarily good at it, but I really enjoy working with the wood. I don't use a lot of Dremels and such. The only power tools I use are band saws and different things that you need to basically make the actual patterns with. I'm not. Right now. I'm actually. You're looking at some of the stuff that you got me interested in, Mark. Believe it or not, caricature carving was something I didn't think I was even ever be good at. But I find that with your help, I found that I could actually make my own patterns. These two that you see here are actually ones I designed. I simply took a bunch of pictures, looked at them from different sides, and then just sized them to what I wanted, and then drew them out, and voila, produced these. This one here is Snoopy playing the guitar. I have three buddies of mine. You probably know I probably play a little guitar. I'm a bass player actually. This particular one went to a friend of mine. I have three friends that we always get together for Christmas, at least once a year, if not more often. And I gave him this one here, the one with the Snoopy in the ears and the red guitar. He just loves it. The second one, Ziggy, I don't know if you can remember him. He was a cartoon character.
Yeah.
And someone says, "Can you do this? Can you, I want something like that from my brother-in-law who happens to be in an old folks home." And I guess he can relate to this. So I designed this from a cartoon clip art, believe it or not. And it turned out not bad. What if it looks anything like I'm supposed to look? I don't know, but he loved it, so it was good. That was a sale actually. This next slide, you can see a couple of attempts to keep Mama happy with some Christmas stuff. Santa Claus on the end was one of my earlier carvings. The other one here is actually designed in oak. And you can see that it's a nativity scene with the baby in the center and Mary and Joseph. And my attempt to do a carrot-nosed snowman, obviously. I'm presently working on my own stuff, which I really enjoy. If you see this aircraft here, obviously I got on a Snoopy kick, and it's unique, and people know that it's my carvings. This one here, believe it or not, the wheels work. The propeller turns. And the machine guns don't work. I just want to point that out. And I'm having fun with this. It's not quite done yet, but I really, really enjoy doing this. Okay, you can go next. Thank you. Here's another Snoopy. Sorry, another snowman. Debbie, my wife, loves angels, so I made this one here for her, and she's got it in her collection. She only has about 180 angels, so I'm gonna have to carve a few more for her. And is there another slide as well?
Yeah, I think that's the last one here.
That's good. And I didn't
Oh,
give
two
you
more
anything, all the stuff I've cranked out. This one here is a good size, actually about 16 inches across. And it's the skull. The intent of this, my father-in-law was a cowboy from Alberta. We're Alberta kids. So this was something that I did in honor of him. You can see that if he was still alive, he would love this, I'm pretty sure. This last one here that's shown This duck was one of the first ones I learned to carve with Don McTaggart. He was my instructor 10 years ago, and he guided me through this. This happens to be cedar. This cedar was actually dug out of the Ottawa River, and it's probably 80 years old. We had a batch of it here, and I obviously got a piece. So I think that's kind of special.
That's nice. There's one more slide here, Fred.
Yeah, this one here is one of my better ones, I believe. You've probably seen the ram in previous shows and stuff that I've done, but this particular one here is a good size. It's about 14 inches across. And everything here is made out of basswood, including the rack. I learned an old trick from a carving buddy in the senior center. If you carve it out and then apply cement, well, put your burn marks in it so that the actual spots on the actual antlers, and then put a cement covering, contact cement on it, it'll actually harden, and it did a really good job. I'm kind of pleased on that one. Incidentally, I also made the board underneath that, which just happened to be in the picture. Right now, I'm having fun with carving, even though it's just a hobby. I facilitate the carving, one of the two carving groups at the senior center in Kingston. We have the morning session, and I can't do it by myself. Obviously, there's a lot more talent there than you can shake a stick at. Mark, thank you for coming in occasionally and helping us out. But with Don McTaggart in the afternoon and Roger Sashaw and of course Larry Strauss, we facilitate something like 25 different other carvers that are there for that. So I'm having fun with it, and I appreciate the opportunity to
Thank you, Fred. Fred does a really good job leading up the Kingston Club at the Senior Center. We have a lot of fun there. Thank you, Fred. Roy, do you want to talk about your slides? If you're there, Roy, you're on mute.
I just had to find it.
Okay.
Hi, Roy Hawley here. I live in Massey Drive, Newfoundland. So there's not very many carvers out here. I'm retired military, and I started carving way back in 96, 97 time period. I was working shift work, and one afternoon I saw a show on Rogers Cable Access, and it was for chip carving. Looked interesting, so I kept on watching it. So I continued on with chip carving for a few years. You know, I bought some tapes and some books from Todd and Dennis Moore from Chipping Away. And yeah, they're Betamax tapes, so that's how long ago it was. So next slide there, Mark, you can show. There's a couple more of my chip carving projects. This one, the one on the right, it's a mirror. I did that while I was on a course, and it saved me a lot of hangovers.
They're both beautiful.
Okay, next slide. Around the early 2000s, I went to Ottawa Wood Show, and I ran into an old guy from Sudbury. I can't remember his name, but he was the nicest guy, and he sat down. He was at his own booth, and he gave myself and my wife, she sat with me, but he gave us a quick demonstration of caricature carving. And, you know, and I was getting a little, I wouldn't say bored, but, you know, just looking for more with carving. So I tried some caricature carvings. I left there about a knife, a couple of books, and then I started the caricature carvings. For those that did the same guy as I did, here's my guy. There's one of them. These are two of my early carvings. You know, you can tell the eyes are bulging, the hands are way too big on the guy on the right, and the Santa on the left, you can tell it's an early carving of mine, because what I noticed with a lot of early carvers, they don't take enough off the corners and they end up being square. So, I mean, I had the same thing happen to me. So, but like the wife won't let me get rid of them. So, and the next one is probably the first project that I did. I did all of these guys. And like you say, you can tell on the early ones are square and then they're getting rounder and rounder and rounder
Yeah.
as they go. You know, you progress along. So anyway, those are my early carvings. So, you know, I'll show them to you. And again, a few years later, I was doing caricature carving and looking for something else. So then I started some relief carving. You know, so these are a few of the relief carvings that I've done over time. I find that I really like doing flowers for some reason. You know, so they're interesting to do. I have a sign there for my grandson. I did that. I forget the guy's name, but he used to do Disney carving or whatever. I took one of his workshops online, and you know, he's into Disney or whatever, and this is based on, you know, the class that I took from him or the seminar that I took from him.
Now, are these your designs, Roy? These flower designs? Because they're very nice.
Yes, they are. This here is the one on the left is out of a relief carving book. I believe it's by Laura Irish.
Yes, that.
Yeah, I think I did 4 of them because all my family still wanted them. You know, so
They really look smart.
and here's back to some of my recent caricature carvings. The guy on the left is a Sean Sippa pattern. It was in Wood Carving Illustrated, I think 3 or 4 years ago. I've done a lot of Sean Sippa's stuff. I bought a lot of his books. I really like his style, the old, you know, it seems like the old West, not the old West, but I can't think of the words that I'm trying to get on there now, but I did a half a dozen of those too for friends and family. And then these are the 2 guys on the right are, anybody that knows Lynn Dowdy will probably recognize the style. The cowboy on the left, I followed along with a series that he did. And the guy on the right, it's my own thoughts on it or whatever. So that's what I try and do. I try and follow a pattern or follow along with somebody and get it, and then try and develop something for myself. So the guy on the right,
Really nice.
it's an interesting, if you go back one step, a lot of people have asked me, you know, how I got the CAD pat on there and painted the CAD pat, and it's a bunch of little squares. So all they did is they took a little piece of screen and just dabbed different colors all over it, and it came out square, and it's pretty close to the actual CAD pat that I wore.
Interesting.
And this here is just an adaptation from Lynn Doty's horse. I'm from Newfoundland, so I made it a moose. This is part of a scene that I'm going to do. I put a saddle on the moose, you know, Newfoundland thrill ride or something like that. I just haven't finished that scene yet. And of course, on the right are
Spoons.
are some mummers. I've started a mummers band. Notice that they all have to have the Newfoundland tartan. You know, a piece of Newfoundland tartan. They've all got to be wearing sunglasses. You know, and so I've got others. I'll do a fiddler with that. I'll put somebody with another ugly stick. It's a Newfoundland thing that we do.
Those are great.
So that's what I mean. The last few years, I've been doing a lot of little caricatures for, you know, 2 or 3 inches tall for my grandkids. You know, I only get to see them once a year, so it's, you know, just because parcels throughout the year. So I do little carvings from Poppy and send it off to them. So I really enjoy doing those.
Roy, could I ask you the name of your city or town again?
Massey Drive.
Massey?
Massey, Massey Drive. Yes, it is a town. That's the name of the town.
When
It's right around Corner Brook. It's sort of attached to Corner Brook, Newfoundland.
Okay.
There's only a few new. I've only been able to find a few carvers in Newfoundland. I think.
Yeah.
Kevin Coates does a lot of YouTube and was in Wood Carving Illustrated and everything like that. And he does a lot of carving around the province, but he lives about 7 hours to the east of me. I met one other guy here that runs the frame shop and an art gallery down here. He carves as well, but you know, every time I go down there, he's out in the shop building frames. So I never get to see him or talk to him or something like that. So
I
really
know of another
enjoy-
carver up at Point Leamington, which is again quite a ways away from you, but Gander area.
yeah.
that just means you have the market, Roy.
Yeah. You know, and the thing is I do this for myself. I've sold very few carvings. You know, I think I've sold 2 of those mummers. Somebody wanted one for their mother or something like that. And I did a Bible box and when I was chip carving. So I just don't go out and sell them. This year I had a goal of doing it, but I think I got about 40 fridge magnets now stuck away somewhere. So anyway,
Beautiful carvings. Sorry, Murray, did I cut you off?
I just use mostly knives. I have a few things or whatever, but everything is done with knives. I just can't take out the chisels. I just don't do it. I use it for beards and for hair, and that's about it. But it's all knife work.
Okay, thank you, Roy and Fred and Firdos. That was really good. I think it's really important for us to spend time on this to get to know one another better and just see the progress we're making. So thank you, guys. Okay, so let's turn to what's on the bench, and we've had a number of people send in some slides for us. Norbert, are you on the line tonight?
Yes, I am now. Yep. Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Norbert. Why don't you speak to these two caricatures?
Well, these were probably the first 2 caricatures that I did, and we did them as a workshop with one of the more experienced carvers in the senior center in the carving group that I participate in. It runs at the time once a week for 3 hours, and we had a really great caricature carver, Ward Wright, who was just phenomenal, and he agreed to host a number of carving workshops. And it was absolutely a bonus. And you know, doing things like the plaid shirt and then burning it and painting it, and you know, I wouldn't have believed that it would come out looking that good. But it was a fun project. We had some good guidance and got me sort of kickstarted. I'm still wet behind the ears in terms of carving, so I'm kind of in a process where I'm experimenting with everything and anything. So I've done bark, I've done chip carving, relief carving, caricature, and I'm still trying to find what's really sticking or gonna stick, you know. I love the caricature carving. I have a lot of difficulty with the faces and the eyes, and I'm blown away at some of the creativity by, you know, Mark's work, for example. Some of his pieces just make you laugh, and the imagination and creativity that has gone into them. Yeah, I don't think I have that crazy an imagination right now. So hopefully that will develop.
These two are just great, and I should just mention that Norbert sent me a whole bunch of slides, and so I've only shown these 2 tonight, but asked him if he'd do one of our All About Us on an upcoming presentation, because they're just some beautiful carvings you've done, Norbert.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, the second piece is the drunk with the dog, and that was a lot of fun. Initially, we were just carving a character, and I don't like the pieces just sort of sitting there or standing there. They look kind of lost. I like it to give a little bit of a story as well too. So I put them on a base, and the cigarette butt and the old newspaper and the empty wine bottle and stuff like that. It perhaps tells a little bit of a story, and I find that a heck of a lot more interesting. And lo and behold, everyone else came the next week with a little mini diorama as well. So we sparked a bit of creativity in the group there, and made them a little more interesting than just a figure standing there.
Well, these are just great. I hope you stay with caricature carving, like this business about the trash can with the dent in it and whatnot. The look on that puppy's face, that's just priceless. I'd almost say you're getting almost as crazy as me.
That's good to hear.
Work on your craziness. You're almost there.
Will do, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
work.
I like the style.
Yeah,
Okay.
very nice style. Very nice style. Thanks, Norbert. Dave, I think I saw you're on the video, so why don't you speak to these two slides?
This is one I completed during the last year. We live on the lake, and right across the bay from us, there's a family that floods the ice and makes a curling rink over there, and they quite enjoy it. So anyway, I thought I'd do a carving. I used some of the techniques that we had earlier in the True North Caricature Carvers to do the plaid on his beret. I use a copper armature to get the right pose, and then I apply a plasticine type material with it. I like the plasticine type material because it's reusable. And so after I apply the plasticine, then I photograph it top and side, and that allows me to cut it out on the bandsaw. The head is carved separately, but everything else is all one piece. The legs and the arms are all one piece. Doing the broom was a little tricky, but I just used a V tool and some wood burning. And I think if I had to do it over, I might have even given the curling stone a bit more of a tip to it to make it look like it's been really thrown hard.
Really
Really
nice.
nice.
Yeah, really
That's
nice.
about it for that one.
Nicely done.
This one is one I really enjoyed doing, and again a bit of a Lynn Dowdy influence here. And I think what really has set this carving off for me was the spectacles that he's wearing. And it was so easy to make. I used 22 gauge wire that I got at the local hardware store, and I just sanded off the paint, wrapped it around a small dowel for one glass and another one, and bent the arms back, soldered the whole thing together, and sprayed it black. It only took about a half an hour, but it made a huge difference in the carving. The cards at the bottom, the deck of cards, I went into a local hobby shop that sells stuff for making airplanes, model airplanes, and they had 1/8 inch thick basswood. So I use those to make the cards, and then I wood burn. And the chips are simply, I just sliced off a piece of dowel and smoothed it out, and there we go. I don't know if you can see it on this photograph, but his vest, I want to make his vest look like it was a fabric. So what I did is I used the little spiked tool that ladies will use when they're copying a pattern to make a dress or a shirt or whatever. It's got little spikes, and I don't know the name of that device. But anyway, I ran it up and down on his vest to make little indentations, and then I painted his vest metallic gold, and then I give it a quick wash with black and wiped it off. So all the little dots in there where I'd run this tool over it made it kind of look like fabric. And then I applied the little buttons that I'd made out of a very small dowel. I just rounded it over and I put them on with contact cement. And the tricky part was holding the button, that little tiny button, and getting it in the right place. But anyway, it was fun doing that one. I really enjoyed it.
That's spectacular carving.
Yeah, very nice.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
Bob, you're on the line tonight.
Yes, I am. Yeah. I just made that across on the left-hand side. It was just basswood, and it was for my wife for Valentine's Day.
Oh,
And the spoons, they were butternut, and I just learned how to do some coal rossing with a sort of a spike nib, and you just have a pattern, you run it over, and then you put grains of, you can use I used pepper, but you can use mustard or any powder and just rub in it, and then you put a sealer on it.
so this here section here as an example, it's grooved in and then you filled it with a powder?
Yes.
Well, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just learned how to do that. One of our guys at the
And did you say there was a name for that, a particular name for that?
coal rossing, KOLROSSING.
I've never heard of that. That's interesting.
I had never heard of it before either until he showed me, and
Yeah.
he made the tool was just a concrete nail, and it was put in a handle and filed to a point, ground to a point, and then you just run that over your pattern and makes a little indent in it.
Well, it turned out really nice.
Yeah.
It's a Swedish craft, apparently. Sweden and Norway have it as a craft. Yeah, looks good.
It does, yeah.
Thank you. And these are just some little carvings I did for my wife for Valentine's Day too.
Your wife fared a lot better than my wife did on Valentine's Day.
Oh, she likes the little trinkets to wear.
Those are nice, Bob. Thanks for sending those photos in.
Yeah.
Firdos, you started to talk about this one. Why don't you
Yes.
talk a little more about it?
Yeah, so this guy, he is with the base 7.5 inches tall. So I just kind of grabbed a piece of basswood inch and a quarter square, and I carved the face on the corner first and just turned him around, and was kind of watching Dave Stetson's YouTube video where he goes through a bunch of videos showing how to carve a face. So I used some of his pointers and carved the body separate together with and then the hands are carved separately. So I kind of attached the hands together, and then the base I attached. So glued it all together. Stands 7.5 inches tall. So he was quite a fun to carve. I didn't want to put too much detail into clothing, so just wanted to just did some pants and shoes and kind of a sweater on the top. So he was fun to carve. Yeah.
Really nice. Thanks for those.
Thank you.
This is my little leprechaun, and it's the first carving I ever did that started with the cap of an acorn. So just out walking the dog, found the cap of an acorn and stuck a piece of basswood underneath it and carved a leprechaun. So that's my little leprechaun.
Thanks, Mark.
Larry, are you on tonight?
Well, I hope I am. Can you hear me, Mark?
I can.
Oh, finally. Okay. After 3 months of no sound, I finally got it. Anyway, thank you very much. So I hope after all these meetings, I can at least talk to you guys. I thank you very much. These carvings, the first one in the blonde hair I did back in, it was like 2016. And then I did another one, the one beside it in 2017. And then the other two are more recently. I wanted to do a lot of caricature carvings, and I realized that if I'm going to do a good caricature carving, I really need to know how to make a lady's face pretty in the first place. Then I can embellish it with nose and eyes and ears and whatever I want later on. But it's been a real struggle, as most of you know. That's why people stay away from women's faces. But for me, I'm trying to get into the market where I want to do lady caricatures, but I realize that the bodies and the faces, I have to learn how to do it properly first, and then I can do the other stuff. And I do every carving from everything I can think of, bears and ladies and anything. But anyway, so anyway, these are my newer ones. I'm working on the one with the brown hair there. I'm doing a second one of that from Milbury training videos. So anyway, these are some of the ladies' faces that I'm working on and trying to get better by doing more and more of them.
You've done a really nice job, and it is difficult to do a lady's caricature. You know, but you're doing all the right things, I think. You know, like the cheekbones are really exaggerated, the lips are really exaggerated. Those are looking really good.
Thank you. This is the one that I'm working on right now. This is a new one of the middle one that I was doing, and I figured I did okay on the first one, but there's a lot of problems that I sort of ran into where I wasn't happy with or pleased with. So I've started another one, and so we'll see how this one works out and see. I'm already about halfway through it, but it's also, once you do the first one, then you sort of, okay, that was a practice, and then you work through the steps. But then what did I do? Things that I didn't like the first time, what didn't really work out. And so I figured the best thing to do is just work on another one, and the only way you're going to get better at it is practice, practice, practice.
Very good.
And this is my tree frog. Thank you. That I just finished on a piece of basswood that I started about 5 years ago. I drew it out. It was one of those ones you draw out, you get all looking forward to doing a project, but then you put it on the back burner. And anyway, so this week I did it, and I do a red-eyed tree frog from the rainforest. And the middle piece of basswood, what I did was I took some puzzle. There's a Mod Podge stuff you can buy for puzzles. And I wanted the middle one to look sort of like a piece of bamboo. So I just did that on the a couple of coats of that. And then when I did all the other things, it sort of showed up as a glossy piece of basswood. But for me, I enjoyed that it made it look like a piece of bamboo with a frog on it.
Really looks smart. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
John Paul.
Yes. I've been doing a few caricature birds lately. I've been first two I started out was the blue jays, and I did raven and
I have those here.
puffin. Oh, I did last night. I finished the otter. It was it's not so much of a caricature, but they are a caricature by nature. They're always the way they swim around and everything and have fun. They almost look like they're having fun all the time.
Yeah.
But that's caricature birds that I've been carving lately.
Your house must be filling up with caricature birds.
Oh, they're all on my bench right here.
Yeah. Those are cute. Those are really nice. Thanks, John Paul.
Anybody wants a pattern, let me know. I can send them a pattern.
Great. Darlene, I saw you on.
Yes. Do you hear me?
I do.
Oh, good. Yeah, this was a relatively recent carving that I was doing. I don't have any bandsaws or anything, so these would be about 2 by 2 by 4 maximum for the tallest figure, Charlie there. And I just started carving, probably 2 years ago when COVID had hit. And I thought I needed to do something, well, in my retirement. So I took up carving, looked at a few of the Doug Blinker videos and got some ideas. This one here, I'm still working, trying to think about what to use for a base on it. But I got these ideas just from the internet or magazines or whatever I could find. And then I started thinking, well, I should probably have the bird and maybe put a nest on top of the doghouse. So that's my most recent, and I've been recovering from a cold, so it's been a long couple of months. But and I didn't know how many I could send in, so I thought, well, I'll just send in my most recent one.
That's really
Very
nice.
good.
You and Fred are going to become famous friends, obviously.
I don't know. I was pretty enamored with that airplane. That was
You're talking about a base. Sometimes when you have a scene like this, sort of a kidney shaped base is kind of nice.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of just do a kidney shape. And if you have a router, you can put a routered edge on it. That sometimes looks pretty.
Yeah, my tools are pretty limited other than just the knives and stuff. So I have to hand carve everything out rather than doing a rough out with a bandsaw. So, but
Michael's has a lot of bases. Michael's has little pine bases already edged out and everything.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's a good suggestion.
They're
I think
cheap.
I'd like something with some snow on it or
Yeah,
something that
yeah.
makes it more wintry. So
That's really nice. Thank you.
Michael's also sells snow in a little container.
okay.
It's kind of a gel type stuff. When you put it on, it actually looks like snows because it's granulated then.
Oh, okay.
And it hardens and it'll last forever.
I'll have to check on that. That sounds like a good idea.
I felt kind of silly going into Michael's asking if they had any snow in the middle of winter. They do have it in a little plastic jars.
Yeah.
Okay.
They said, "Oh, it's that guy again." Yeah.
This
Murray has given up. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Roy.
This is also good for doing snow. It's a modeling paste from Liquitex. It's a little it's a little thicker than the paint that they use, and you can paint it down there and sort of shape it and everything like that. The modeling paste, the Liquitex modeling paste, I find it's great for that.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, and Murray has given up carving, and so why don't you talk a little bit about this, Murray?
I haven't given up on carving. I just kind of extended it further to a picture. The fellow on the left is Jean Paul Andre. The guy in the middle is Mark Sheridan. The one on the right is myself.
Now the question I have is, why does the one of me look the oldest?
Well, I think there's lots of hidden answers to that one.
Yeah.
Just as I work with carving for so many years, I've discovered AI art. And it has been just a joy working with this. It costs absolutely nothing to do it. Unless you want to spend a bigger dollar, you can. But I took the original photographs that I had. One, John Paul, the only picture I had of him was back in London at our carving thing at the Pioneer Village. It was three of us together, a great big guy beside you and I, Mark.
Yeah.
This one here, this is a Valentine's Day thing he gave, or at least presented, because he was talking about his wife. I didn't put her in the picture, but that's John Paul from a rendition of AI art. And on the right-hand side, when I put myself in there, each one of those was done with a picture, a photograph of the person that you do. So any one of you, if you wanted me to do one for you, I could do that also. You just have to send me a photograph. And the reasons are just heads, because that was the portrait we have, the pictures. John Paul's was a bigger picture than that, but I just cropped out what I could get from it. And it worked out really good. Now down a little bit further, I think we're talking about this March.
I'm gonna come to that in just 1 second, but I was just gonna mention, Murray, why don't you just talk about what you're planning to do at an upcoming Zoom call for us in regard to artificial intelligence art?
Okay, no, there's so much negative press about AI art right now, and the government having to get involved, and all kinds of people saying stuff that's really not good. It is actually original artwork, but you create each one of these pictures that you see are created with a small sentence that I type out, plus the photograph was added. In the case that I don't have a photograph, I can create a picture completely by the words. And so this AI art is not hard to get into, and there's internet sites now popping up left, right, and center because so many people want to try this. And perhaps in the upcoming month, I'm not sure what it would be, maybe April or so.
That'd be
March,
great.
April, somewhere in that, or we can put some pieces together. But we'll be able to show you how to start to do that in very simple steps. It doesn't take a long time to do. I've actually developed a short course that I've now presented test market of my friends that are artists or people that would like to try. And within a very short time, they're already creating amazing pieces of art. So it's just something we're hoping to do to let you see what it's about. You've already, if you're on Facebook, you'll see these unbelievable pieces of work coming along. And somebody will say, I did this, what do you think? Well, they didn't do it. And they created the carving with AI, and then they created the person standing beside the carving with AI. It's completely AI work.
Mm-hmm.
But it's amazing what you can do with it once you get onto it and be able to control it.
So we're going to have Murray come back in April and give us a little 20-minute version of how this happens, how the AI artwork happens. But just imagine, you know, what a great tool this would be for us as caricature carvers. You know, Dave was talking about his armature and putting a little clay on it. That's the way I've done it in the past. But even starting before that with determining what you want to do and manipulating an AI artwork to develop the image of what you want to do before you do that clay work. So I think it's another great tool. So I'm looking forward to that, Murray. Thanks for that.
Good.
Okay, let's move on to the March challenge and a little bit more of Murray's AI art. And so what we're hoping to do here is in our next Zoom call is have a St. Patrick's Day challenge. And it can be a leprechaun of any description or anything related to St. Patrick's Day. And we'll just have a little bit of fun with it. The really big news on this slide is that Cindy Frank, who owns Chipping Away in Kitchener, has very generously offered to sponsor the True North Caricature Carvers. And so she's very excited about sponsoring us for virtual shows, small shows like this, little challenges, but also our larger virtual shows. So we really appreciate her help with that. Mike Ott is one of our TNCC members, and he happened to be at the Chipping Away store and introduced himself to Cindy and introduced the whole notion of True North Caricature Carvers. John Paul and I subsequently followed up with Cindy and have had a number of really good chats with her, and she's been very generous. She's really excited about sponsoring us, and of course we're delighted to have you know, a store like Chipping Away be part of the True North Caricature Carvers. So this is really big news for us.
And just Mark, I add to what you're saying, if we go back to that a minute, I'd like to suggest that perhaps you would be able to send out an email with these attachments to it. I think we have now about 7 possibilities of AI art that we've done that you could send everybody, and they can then choose bits and pieces out of it to create their piece for the March show.
Yep. Okay, that's a great idea, Murray. I'll do that. I'll just add to that, though, it doesn't have to be a leprechaun. You know, we're only giving you like 4 or 5 weeks to work on it. So, you know, if it's a shamrock or something else that strikes you to be fun for St. Patrick's Day, you just send in whatever is related to St. Pat's. Leprechaun would be great, and it might inspire you to do some element of it, maybe just a hat or something like that. But I'll do that, Murray.
These pictures
Mark,
you see there are ones that I've created in AI art. All of these are 4 are actually 7 of them. So now.
John, were you going to say something?
Yeah, the Chipping Away too, we get as a member of the True North Caricature Carvers, we get a 10% discount on anything over $50. So you just got to mention that you're from this Zoom call, and you get a 10% off.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, John. Okay, with respect to the March challenge, any carving related to a St. Patrick's Day theme, so it doesn't have to be a leprechaun, use your imagination. Submit some photos to me at mark@tributesandwood.com. Try to do it by March 17th. That's the Sunday prior to the Thursday, March 21st Zoom meeting. And that'll give Murray and John Paul and myself a little time to get together on a Zoom call and do a little bit of quick judging. We'll determine what groupings we'll have. We probably will have 2 groupings. And as we did at the Christmas show, we combined kind of novice intermediate and then intermediate open. And so we'll take a look at the carvings and just see where the best competition would be in terms of the nature of the carvings, and we'll group them in that fashion. We'll be providing certificates of recognition again for first, second, third, and honorable mention. All the photos will be included in the Ontario Woodcarvers magazine and on our OWCA website. And we have 2 $25 gift certificates from Chipping Away to be awarded for this particular challenge. So again, thank you to Cindy Frank of Chipping Away, and hope everybody takes advantage of this and we have some fun with this. Okay, any questions on that before I leave it? Okay, I was going to talk a little bit about sharpening and grain, but I think I'm going to come back if we have time and probably bump that off to a next meeting. John's done a lot of work in putting some slides together on carving eyes, so I think we'll go to that first, John, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, it's yours.
Yeah, I just I started I got 3 different styles of eyes that I do. So I set it up. I set up the nose and the eyes, and I set it up always the same way, but I always do a different eye. So the second slide is that style of an eye. So that's the little shelf. I carved the shelf in for the eye, and then I put a little half moon, and then I carved that part out, and then I half moon on the other side. That's the bag of the eye, the bottom of the eye. It's just a different way of doing it, and then I carved the bottom out, and that's what it looks like. And then I carve the eyeball itself out. So it's just a different way of doing it. Instead of the round ball, or it's just a different way of doing that style. And then there's the next one.
We'll just let people look at that before we move on.
Okay.
So again, it's just kind of you do the top, and you might think that you're carving the eye, but in fact you're carving an eye and an eyelid. And then the bottom, you put the bag under the eye, and that portion that you carved out that looked like the eye is actually an eye here and an eyelid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just split up a little bit.
All right.
John, I have a question. When you carve the eyes so tiny, do you have problems painting the eye, like the eyes? Because I always run into paint overflowing on out of the eyeball when I carved eyes really small.
Well, I do a little bit of wood burning in there, really light wood burn.
Okay.
And that really stops it. But I always, you see how I paint. I always wet my carving first, and that way when I do, it's all when I put a little bit of a dot of paint in there, it just feeds right in. It doesn't like it
doesn't bleed.
Flows.
Yeah.
It flows in where that white is, should be. Then I just put a little dot and for the eyeball itself, the iris.
So when you talk about wood burning, then it's right along underneath that lid.
Yeah.
And
then
over
under there.
Underneath here. And then that creates a little dam for the white that you put in on the eye.
Right. And then I wet the whole carving with a spray bottle, and it's always damp. And then I put a little bit of paint on my brush and fills right in the spot right perfectly. This is one style.
Quick question. Do you find, how do you find it with the bleeding sometimes? That's what I find. Do you spray it with a Varathane first before you do all the other things, or you just right on the wood with wet on wet?
Wet on wet. Like I said, I do a little bit of wood burning, very light. If you go too dark, then you can see it. You can't cover it with the paint. So I do a slight. I forget, it was like a number 3 or probably on the wood burner, and it's like a light brown, but it covers up the paint, but it doesn't let it bleed either. Any more questions about that style? So this is the finished one. So this is all finished. I put the eyebrows on, the beard on, and clean them all up. That's that one style of eye. Here's the second one. Same thing. I build the carve everything out, the nose out, the shelf out for the eye. But all I do is I just, where that line, where the two lines are, I just carve that out. One, you put your mouse right on the eye mark, right on the pencil mark. Yeah, just one line. That's all I do. I don't carve the bottom part at all. Just carve that little edge you'll see on the other side. Yep. And that creates the eyeball right there itself. And we'll go to the next shot. Yeah. So then I put the next cut will be above the eye. That's the eyelid.
Eyelid.
Okay. And then on the other side, you see the eyelid already cut out.
Mhm.
And I'll shape the eyeball. I'll cut the two corners out and shape the eyeball itself. Yeah. And the line above the eye is now going to be the eyebrow. Yeah. And next slide.
Oh my
is-
God.
Debbie's
it's
enjoying
just-
this, I think.
There's no cut at the bottom or nothing. It's just one cut right at the very top of the eyeball. Where the shelf is started, like the very first picture is where I cut the shelf for the eye, and then you put one cut on the very top, and then cut above the eyebrow. See where that shelf is? That's the bottom of the eyeball. Yeah, right there is the bottom of the eyeball. So then I just cut the two half moons. And then it ends up like that. Just like that.
Just like that.
A
It's as
quick
simple as-
question, do you use a V groove or just knives all the time?
I just use a knife. I only got 3 knives. 3 sharp ones.
Okay.
Now this was more like a Lindauti type eye, where you I do the same thing, put a shelf in, put the eye round circle, carve around the eyeball itself, and go to the next slide, then put the eyeball in,
That was looking there.
and then above the eye is the eyebrow. So then I cut the eyeball out itself. It's underneath the eyelid, and cut each corner of the eye, so make it look like it's round, half round. And then it's finished. So that's 3 different styles that I use, that I can use and I do use. And some are easier than others, but the second one is the easiest one, where it's just 2 cuts on the top.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that one there, just a cut on the top, and then a cut on the top of that with the eyebrow or eyelid.
Yeah.
It's just 2 U's, or yeah. And
Okay, that's great, John. Questions for
you want
John?
to go to my picture for a second, Mark? My camera?
Yeah,
Can you do
it
that?
is. Yeah, it's on. Yeah, go ahead. You just need to
Oh, is
talk.
it? Oh, I can't see where I'm at. Am I showing the picture of it?
Yeah, move it a little bit to your left. You'll have to say something, John.
Okay, right now, can you see it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's the second one. That one there, all painted. Not all painted, but just the eye is painted. Just wanted to show you that one. That's the most simplest eye I could come up with. Okay, that's it.
Okay, questions for John? Further questions?
Just asking John a tip on getting this particular slide that's on the screen now is making sure you're not getting crossed eyes or wall eyes.
Yeah.
So the 2 black spots are put in the right spot or wrong spot. How do you do that?
The 2 black spots?
You know,
pupils.
where the pupil is.
How do you make
Oh,
sure,
boy.
how do you make sure the pupils aren't cross-eyed, John?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah, and so one way of doing that, and John probably does this when he's painting, but one way of doing it is when you first paint that eyeball white, and say you come back with black to make the pupil, just
Right.
make the tiniest of a dot on one eye, and then the tiniest of a dot on where you think the other pupil should be, and right away you'll know whether it's looking right at you or whether it's looking, cross-eyed. And then you can start building up
okay.
that tiny dot in the direction you need to make the pupil round. And so start with a dot and then use that for alignment, and either build up on one side of the dot or the other to straighten the eyes up. That's the way I do it anyway.
Oh, okay. I didn't understand the question.
Yeah, yeah.
One thing I was taught also, but to not have it looking straight ahead like a zombie, as some of my earlier works. But it's always like looking, as you have here, one way or the other, just off to the left or off to the right. It always makes it look like it's looking at something.
Watching the
As
Zoom,
opposed to when you look at it straight ahead, it looks like a zombie.
and there's Beehive too tonight. But I'm watching the characters one, so.
You want me to get the salad?
Yeah, I'm just watching this. Matt, Marianne.
Debbie, you just want to go on mute there, okay?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, that's a good point, Larry. And John did a nice job of making them off to one side, but you've seen carvings, and you may have made carvings yourself, where you put the eyes way off to the side and it looks real sinister. So you can really put some emotion into the caricature. Okay, any other questions for John?
What I find too, when I do eyes, I will, because a lot of times when I've painted and I do them wet on wet, but what I find is that it raises the grain in the eye and it makes the eye look, grainy. So what I do is I sand it first, and I'll wet it, then I'll let it dry, so that the grain has already been raised in it, and then I'll sand it lightly again, and then I'll paint it. So I try to raise the grain on it first before I paint the eye, because I find too many of my eyes look terrible because the grain raised when I wet it.
That's a good tip.
Good idea.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
But just a suggestion, Roy, I could make there, that I've had that similar problem, and one of the persons suggested that you use this glaze that they have. I buy it at Michael's. It's in the same place where all little bottles of paint are at. And when you put that on, it's a lot like clear nail polish, but it's a water base. And you apply it to the front of the eye after you have it sanded and smoothed out and everything. All of a sudden that carving comes alive because it looks like the eye is wet.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've ever seen, like, an animal or even sometimes a human, when the body is dead, the eye is dry.
Yeah.
They look dead if you don't make the eye wet.
I mean, that's a great idea. I mean, I've heard of using epoxy for the same purpose, but if there's something that you can buy in a little bottle like that, because mixing up epoxy, I find is.
But this is only about $1, 75, something of that sort, less than it lasts forever. But I'm sure that probably clear nail polish would do it, but you'd have to apply a lot more. This other kind of material is really quite thick. And so put it on if you lay the carving down and you apply it, it runs off to the side of the eyeball, each side, makes it perfectly smooth.
Perfect.
I happen to use two-part epoxy, clear epoxy for the eyes, and it does a nice job. And it's really, it gets nail hard. The one thing I'll offer in this discussion, though, is that I've used epoxy, clear epoxy, for the whole eye. And if you're not careful, it makes the eye look like it's really watering, like pooling along the bottom well here. And I've got to the point where I just epoxy the pupil now. And just a tiny bit of epoxy on the pupil is just enough to grab the light, so that when you turn the caricature, the eye looks like it's following you. So give that a try too.
This is one I use. I use Liquitex.
Yeah.
Gloss medium varnish.
Mhm.
That's what I use for the eyeball.
So Mark, is that in place of the white dot?
Yeah, in fact, sometimes I do put that white dot on the pupil as well, and then I put the epoxy over it. It looks kind of smart. So what Elliot's talking about is if you did a pupil this size, just black, if you just put a tiny white dot in the corner here and a tiny white dot in the other eye in the same spot, it looks like that glint of an eye, and it looks really sharp on a caricature carving.
Mark, is that a one
Okay, thanks.
epoxy?
Two-part epoxy.
Two-part, okay.
Yeah.
I always find that, Mark, with the little white dot, definitely it finishes and it also gives a direction of the eyes when they're looking at it with the light shining off it. But I use the back of a toothpick and I take a bit of sandpaper and I sand the tip off the toothpick and then just dip it into the white paint and just line up the two dots. And that, like you say, that really gives it a real finish to it. Because like all the carvings, the eyes have it. You know, you can do the greatest carving in the whole world. The eyes look stupid or cross-eyed or whatever. It just doesn't do too much to your carving. So I always figure the eyes have it. So I repainted the eyes on carvings, I don't know how many times, because I realized that's the first thing you really look at. And that's what I always think when I'm making a carving, the eyes have it.
Yeah, exactly
Yep.
right.
I use the end of the paintbrush, like a smaller paintbrush.
Mhm.
It's rounded. You don't have to round the toothpick or anything, and just a little bit. Some of the paintbrushes are really small. It depends what size your eye is, so that works good.
Okay, that's a really good discussion. Thank you for that, John.
Mark?
Mark,
Yes,
Mark.
Wayne?
Yeah.
Let's,
Okay.
That's the kind I use, that what you held up there. That's its exact model of stuff.
Yeah, I got it at the Great Canadian Dollar Store.
Yeah.
And I think it was $2.50, and it's wonderful stuff. Have I got that so you can see it, or
yeah.
Yep.
Americana?
Make sure to get the gloss one, not the satin.
Yeah, this is the gloss glaze, triple thick gloss glaze. Cleans up with water just the same as the rest of your acrylic paints. Perfect.
Okay, thanks, Wayne.
Yep.
Okay.
Mark.
Yes.
Yeah, just something else too that I tried for the eyes, the actual painting of the pupil itself, because I always had a bit of a hard time getting it perfectly round, and I know some people mentioned about the end of the paintbrush and stuff, but those little styluses with the little metal ball on the end, they're great for actually dipping in the black paint and just getting progressively larger, and you get a really nice uniform, like symmetric round black pupil. I found they work really well with no bleeding, nothing off to the side. So just wanted to throw that out there because I've had to carve
you
with
say
a
a
lot of
stylus. Say more about that. What do you mean by the stylus with the ball?
It's a little wooden stick, and it has the two. A lot of them are two-ended. They've got a metal shaft and then a small ball on the end. Have you seen those?
I don't think I have. No.
Yeah, just as you're talking there. Yeah.
There's one right here, Mark.
Used for paper embossing.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
there's
Okay.
one
All right.
there that the other fellow was showing.
Yeah, that's right.
And they have them that go down to a very, very tiny size up to a fairly large size. And they're great for doing that. And they're also great for putting texture on a sweater, like not texture, but the patterns where you want to get a uniform, dot all the way along on a supposedly knit sweater. But you can get them on Amazon. You can get a package of like 6, all varying sizes. So you'll actually end up with 12 because there's 2 on each one. And they do a great job. As I say, I've carved a lot of eyes back off prior to that because I had 2 different size pupils in them. So it's an inexpensive solution, and they work great for a lot of things.
I just discovered the exact same thing recently. That's why I'm rounding up my stylus, because it really does help you get the eyeballs round.
Yeah.
And it's great for tracing patterns too. That's the purpose of
Oh,
it.
is that right? Yeah.
You put carbon paper underneath, And that's what you use to
Oh,
trace it for. That's what
good
the
idea.
stylus
Yeah.
purpose is for.
Yeah, if you're tracing a pattern for wood burning with some graphite paper, they're great. The last year that Carve It Up, that my daughter's little company had a show, we went to the Belleville show. We gave out probably 100 plus of those styluses. They were pink, actually. One of the carvers gave them to us to give out, and anytime somebody bought something, we just gave them out. They had double-ended, big ball, small ball, but I found some at the Dollarama and the Dollar Tree. And then, yeah, Michael's has different sizes, like Sue said.
Okay.
Another place you can look for them too, if you're really having a hard time finding them, is in the nail polish section, because that's what a lot of people buy them for, to do like a design on their nails. Yeah.
Last time I was in the nail polish section, I didn't notice them.
Well, see, you got to start looking.
I need to open my eyes a little more. Those are good tips. So thanks for all of that. Hey, you know what? I think we're pretty much wrapping up here. Anybody have any final tips or techniques they want to share?
I just wanted to say thanks very much to John Paul for the eye techniques. I think those are worth trying out. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, they're great.
And Miles, it's nice to see you back from the far north.
Yes, that was an adventure.
Tell everybody
I
where you
enjoyed
were.
it.
Hey,
Tell
you,
everybody where
Miles.
you were.
Resolute Bay up in
Wow.
Nunavik or Nunavik.
Wow.
So I was up there for almost a month working on sleds.
And it's nice to see the sun again, right?
Yes, it was every morning, wake up 7 o'clock, dark, go to lunch, dark, come back from work, dark. Saw the moon every day.
Nice. It's good to see you back. Well, thanks, everybody. Really enjoyed tonight's Zoom call. Give that March challenge a try, and we'll see if we can have some fun with it next time around, and make good use of Cindy Frank's generosity. So give that a try, and we'll have some fun in March, okay?